Good morning. I told our guest speaker, Sister Suellen, that I think today she's more popular than Santa Claus. Well, who of us can forget April 5th, 2022, when we heard the news that Sister Suellen Tennyson, a well-known Maronite sister from New Orleans and a friend to many of us, had been taken captive in Africa. Sister Suellen was doing missionary work in Yaogo, Burkina Faso, a country 99% of us had never heard of, and she was abducted at night by unidentified armed men. Every day for 5 months, the people of this archdiocese, many people around the country and around the world, prayed for Sister's safety and for her release. Masses were offered, rosaries were said, adoration chapels were visited, all as we begged God to spare our dear sister, who by now had become everyone's best friend, whether one knew her personally or not. During those months, people wondered, who was this sister who in her 80s was ministering in a far-off land? Sister Suellen had been a Maronite for 65 years, serving as an elementary school teacher, in leadership roles for her order, and had served as vicar for religious at the Archdiocese of New Orleans. She was admired and well-loved by all who knew her. She was of age to retire, not to trek off to Africa. So in 2014, when God told her he had other plans for her, she headed off to Burkina Faso to begin a journey that ended with God answering prayers and reminding us all once again that miracles do happen. And as most of you here will remember, Paul Harvey, he said, then there is the rest of the story, which Sister Suellen will now tell us.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I do believe all of you are my friends. And what a joy for me to look out and see all of the people, or I should say some of the people, who are part of the miracle that has allowed me to be standing here today. Many people say, you are a miracle. I said, no, I'm not a miracle. The power of prayer is the miracle. And it's because of your prayer, I still cannot fully comprehend or understand the thousands of people who prayed and the experience of what that unity, what that power of unity was able to create for me, and as a result, for you. Because my story is God's story, and it's also part of your story. And as we said, our experiences shape us. So you have been shaped through the experience of your union of prayer for me, with others around the world praying. Again, we can never, never forget the power of prayer. That is an awesome, awesome experience. And I'm still trying to really grasp the meaning of it. So I would like personally to thank Sharon, Kathy, all the committee that were part of planning this, Father Joe and the confessors, for all those who prepared for this wonderful event, a time to step aside from our daily events to give God a little extra time to see what God might be saying to you through what God said to me. So, in our experiences, this experience that started, as Sharon said, on April 5th, the night between April 4th and April 5th, when I was sleeping peacefully in my convent bedroom. I sleep very well, so I didn't hear any disturbance coming. All of a sudden, there was a light shining in my room, and at first I thought it was the night guard. And I jumped out of my bed, and I went running over to the window to say, Mr. Bonaventure, what? When I got a little bit closer, I realized it was not Mr. Bonaventure, the medical center night guard. And so I ran to the other side of the room, of course, not fast enough, when two men came in, all garbed in the Muslim outfit, I would say, and bound me, gagged me, covered my head, blindfolded me, and eventually dragged me out of my room to sit on the front porch. So I'm sitting there not really knowing what's going on. I couldn't see the language, I couldn't understand, but I figured they must be robbing. I'm sure they're here to find whatever they can to rob our convent. Well, as the time went on, I realized maybe they're doing more than robbing, because the next thing I knew, they came and stood me up and started dragging me to a motorcycle, put me on the back of a motorcycle with another gentleman behind me, and of course, and they said, hang on. Well, I was hanging on for dear life, praying, angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love and trust, please, I don't know what's happened. I don't have a clue of what's happening. But help me, God, help me. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, I don't know what's happening with my two sisters either, because I couldn't see, I wasn't aware of what was going on. And so that became a real anxious moment for me also. Let me say right now, because I didn't say this last week, many asked me after, what happened to the other two sisters, Sister Pauline and Sister Pascaline? They were not taken. They stayed locked in their room. They heard disturbance coming. When you sleep well, you don't hear a lot, which is a blessing, but at this point, I guess it was a different kind of blessing. So they were not taken, thanks be to God. But of course, they worried and were anxious and filled with fear because they didn't know what was going to happen to me. So I was worried about them. They were worried about me. One of the first miracles, shortly after that one-night drive on the motorcycle, into the next day on the motorcycle, I'll tell you, I have no desire to ride on motorcycles. I was transferred from this group that took me. This group that took me from my convent home, my convent room, they were militant. They were a militant group of Muslims. But on that first day, which was toward the midday of April 5th or into the afternoon of April 5th, I was transferred to another group. And very shortly on, it didn't take much time for me to realize, this group had a different attitude. I didn't sense militant. They seemed kind to me, and I could tell they didn't seem to desire to do any physical harm to me or abusing me in any way. So I say this is the first miracle, because if I had stayed with that militant group, I do not know what the rest of my story would be. I do not know. But as I said early on, and I'll give you some examples of what helped me to know that this group had no desire to harm me physically or abuse me sexually or any way. So a little bit more. During those first 2 months, so that was April and May, I lived outdoors in a forest area under a handcraft they called it hangar, but a handcraft tent-like structure, and with leaves and branches to be the covering. And they would hang a blanket or some type of material, depending on where the sun was, to protect me from the sun. Because I was outside, I was in nature. We had many animals that passed by: goats, donkeys, cows, sheep, and we had a group of a flock, I don't know what they're called, of monkeys would come. In the morning, they would head in one direction, probably for food and drink, and later in the afternoon, they would come back, go back to wherever their home was. They weren't close to me. They were more at a distance. But the other animals would come by, and I could feed them. Whatever I had, I'd throw it out there. And so I really just enjoyed being that close to nature and being able to feed the animals like that. Birds, little lovebirds, were just so precious. And there were a few bigger birds with vibrant colors. So in this first place, these first 2 months, I have to say it sounds strange, but I enjoyed where I was because I love being out in nature. Also, in this area, I was able to walk behind my sheltered area. I was far enough from the road that I couldn't be seen. I was not to be seen by anyone except those who were my guards. But in this place, I was able to walk in the forest area. Then it became the rainy season in June. So June, July, and August were rainy season. We had big thunderstorms, big rainstorms. One time, I was soaked through and through because there's no protection with that little shelter that I had. And so it was necessary to change my basic location. So this second location was not as pleasant for me. We were in a less wooded area, more open area. There were a few trees, but it was more desert-like in a way. And I was given a mud room to live in with one door, no windows. They had little cracks above, but nothing where air could get in, for me anyway, to feel it. So here I had to stay in this mud room, and I could just see what I could see out of the door. And I was not to leave that place unless there was absolutely nobody else around other than those who are assigned to guard me. My diet, they asked me, what would you like to eat? I said, well, I'd love a cup of coffee in the morning for sure. That was a faithful thing that I got every morning. In fact, I could enough to make 2 cups of coffee. Sometimes I'd have a piece of bread or some crackers. But the rest of the diet was basically rice, spaghetti, sardines. But of course, there was no Creole sauce, no Italian sauce. It was rice, spaghetti, and sardines. Sardines, rice, and spaghetti. Once in a while, they were able to get a piece of fruit to me, but that was not very often. Once in a while, I was able to have a mango during the mango season. Every now and then, they were able to get a banana to me, but they had to get that from someplace else. So by the time it got to me, it was squished and brown, and they would say, "You're going to eat that?" I said, "Yeah, it's still a banana, you know." But so basically, as I said, my diet was my coffee in the morning, maybe a piece of bread or cracker, spaghetti, rice, sardines. Oh, every now and then, somebody would bring a chicken. But they didn't cook the chickens like we cook them here, I can tell you. Sometimes they cooked them so fast I could hardly eat it. But every now and then I would get a chicken. So actually, I was camping out for 5 months. And it dawned on me, I said, Suellen, why are you struggling with this camping? Well, at that time I was 83. You have lived in a house for 83 years. that has facilities, both for bathing and for toileting and electricity, and you're able to get different kind of foods that you need to eat. So that's why this is a little hard for you. So just relax. So I learned to be very creative. You can only imagine some of the things I had to learn to do with whatever I had. You become very creative. One of the things that stays with me is that once I realized the men who were assigned to guard me, I would ask them, why? Why have I been taken? Because I couldn't understand a reason. It made no sense to me. Why have I been taken? And all they would say is, we're made to guard you. We're here to guard you. We don't know any more than that. And so I realized, as I said earlier, that these men were not militant. They were very kind. And I'll give you a number of stories for that. But before that, I forgot to mention that as I was being driven away from the convent and wondering what was happening to Pauline and Pascaline, one of the things I started praying right away was, oh God, please use this for good. I do not have a clue why they're taking me, but whatever, use it for good. When I got home, I found out how much good what did happen because of my captivity. All the people united in prayer it's part of the miracle also. The medical center continued even though we were taken away. The staff there knew we were responsible. We were the leaders. We were, the administrator, and I took care of the finances, etc. But they continued the medical center. Even though in that little town of Yalgo, many of the professionals left because it was the terrorists in that area were getting more active. And so many of the professionals there left that little town. But our staff at the medical center did not. They stayed. And we realized, they often said to us before, if you all would leave, we would leave. But we didn't leave by choice. We were made to leave because Pauline and Pascaline were made to leave Yalgo that very day, April 5th. The government and, of course, our community didn't feel it was safe for the sisters to stay there. So they left that same day. Sister Pauline and I often laugh because we were about to turn over the responsibility for this medical center to the diocese. It was their mission that we opened and developed for them. And we said, well, we didn't have to go through all that would have included. God took care of it. We left, and now they picked it up. They had to pick it up. One of the first experiences that I go back to hundreds of times. When I was transferred to this second group that seemed very respectful, the leader of the guards, the one who was responsible for naming people to guard me, his name was Mr. Nufu. I said to him at first, already, I had been on a motorcycle all night, part of the day, I was already tired. Oh, I said, Mr. Nufu, I didn't know his name at the moment. I said, I'd love a chair to sit on, a chaise. Well, he said, he made a little sign. He walked me a little distance, and there was this wonderful cushioned chair. Oh, I said, this is fantastic. It's very difficult sitting on the floor. He noticed at that moment, when God gave me a place to sit, that my toe on one of my feet was cut and was bleeding. This Muslim man went and got some water and washed my foot. I'm sitting there looking at this. This man does not have a clue of the symbolism of what he's doing. But for me, God used that moment of what Mr. Nufu did to tell me, Suellen, I am here. I am here with you in that man. He is a reminder to you of my presence. I will never, never forget that moment. It's like God said, okay, I'm here. This past Easter, on Holy Thursday, we were at our parish for the celebration, and I nudged all the sisters before the washing of the feet. I said, please remember to pray for Mr. Nufu. Pray for Mr. Nufu. That Muslim man was the image of God for me at that moment. Some of the kindnesses that these Muslim men did for me. One, they got the chair for me to sit in, and Mr. Nufu got a sofa for me to sleep on. I'm telling you, that was a gift of gifts, because to sleep on the floor, I sleep well, but that would have been really very, very difficult. So for him to realize that I needed something more, for him to get that for me. Also, something that happened, well, because the sofa got moved a few times, the ends were broken off, the back was broken off, and I'm tall, so when I'm laying on the sofa, my feet are hanging off the edge. One of the young guards, Abbas, he noticed that. He took a big bag that was probably a rice bag, stuffed it with other bags, and put it at the end of the sofa to rest my feet. I didn't ask for that. He noticed. He noticed, and he did that. Eventually, they got a translator from Nigeria. Mr. Saeed spoke English, so he came to be a translator for me and also for them, because we were able to communicate, as you learn to do with the little French that I know, the little French that they knew, but I didn't know their basic language, their native language. But this translator was a big, big help for me as also for them. Again, another sign, God, I'm here with you, just okay. They noticed, Mr. Nufu noticed, that I was trying to keep track of the days on the tree branch, because it was very important for me to keep track of what day it was. I knew my community was going to have chapter. I knew what those dates were. I knew my grandniece was going to take the state board to be a lawyer. I knew that date. I had birthdays that I knew were coming up. I was also praying. My nephew and his wife were pregnant, and they had very much difficulty when they were first married in getting pregnant. They lost a child. In the meantime, they adopted 3 children, but then they got pregnant. So I knew that before I was taken captive, and I knew the baby was coming in July. So I've been praying and praying and praying for safe pregnancy and safe delivery. So I had so many things I needed to keep track of to pray for those special events. Mr. Nufu, seeing me trying to keep track of the dates, he said, would you like a piece of paper? I said, yes. He gave me a red Bic pen and a little piece of paper that I started my calendar. I'd mark each day, and at the end of the week, I'd put, 7 days. The next week, it was 14 days. And I just kept count of how many days, it was. I have little signs. They moved me on this day. For what reason, I don't know. We had to change place. There was probably somebody getting close to finding me, and we needed to change our location for a day or two. If somebody came to talk with me, to interview me, that was different than the regular guards, I'd mark that. So that was my calendar, but also I would write their names down, because it was important for me to remember their names. They're all very different. I'd spell them the way it sounded, but I knew Mr. Nufu, Abbas, Abdul. I would keep track of their names, because for me that was very important. In that vein, they called me Madame or Madam, and I said, oh, wait, I'm not a madame. I'm not a madam. I'm not a madam. I started to try to explain the Catholic sister. Now that was, I said, Suellen, let that go, let that go. But they would keep saying, you're not married? You don't have children? I said, no, I'm not married and I don't have children. I said, oh, Allah, God. Allah, your God you call Allah, God. Creator, created all of us. You're my brother. I'm your sister. You're my brother. I'm your sister. Call me sister. And that's what they called me ever after that. So that was very special to me. The days and nights seemed like they would never end. I had nothing, nothing to read, nothing to do, and I'm used to being very active, and that's what I would keep saying to them. Why don't you let me go? I can go back. I have a lot to do at the medical center, and you can go on with your life and do what you... No, we're here to guard you, to make sure you have something to eat, make sure nobody else comes and takes you. So I would always be asking, what time is it? What time is it? What time is it? Well, Abbas was one of the main guards at that time, and he finally came to me. He had a watch, but the band was broken, but he had the face of the watch. He finally gave the watch to me. He was tired of me asking all the time, what time is it? What time is it? What time is it? So I was able then to keep better track of the days and the nights, the time, and begin to organize my day. I would say, now what are my sisters doing? Well, they're going to Mass, then they pray in the office, then they have breakfast, and I would go through so I started following my order of day. I would have Mass. I know the Mass. I'd begin with the sign of the cross, etc., the penitential part, the opening prayer. And when I would get to the scripture, I would say, okay, God, what is your message to me today? Sometimes it was a scripture passage, a story, or whatever God had in mind for me today. Eventually, it became a special message to me, and I'll share those in just a moment. But then I prayed the rosary. I had throughout the day. Throughout the day, I would make a spiritual communion. That became very important to me. At least three or four times a day, I would make spiritual communion. The Memorare, I used that prayer to our Blessed Mother, and at the beginning, this is how I prayed it. Just like this. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to your protection implored you. I'm pleading, give me the grace that I need. And of course, I had a list of intentions. I'm praying for my family, my friends, my community, et cetera, and I'd go through the litany of my intentions. So Mary, you promised, never has it been known. So you have to take care of this for me. Songs became important to me. When I'd pray the office, as often as we've prayed the Psalms, you think I could remember the Psalms? Maybe a line or two from them, but I started singing songs that I knew. And actually, they were the older ones, like Just a Closer Walk, Amazing Grace, Lead Me, Guide Me. One that I remembered all the words for was Gentle Woman, Hail Mary, Gentle. I had all those words, but these other songs, I would kind of make them up as I went along. Actually, with the Amazing Grace song, the last verse was, when we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining sun. I would sing that verse, and then I would sing, when I've been here 120 days, bright shining as the sun. I have no less days to sing God's praise than when I first began. That became very special to me, to remind me, this is the day you have to give praise to God, no matter where you are or what's happening to you. And that became very special to me. Another thing that often the Muslims, they pray regularly a number of times during the day. So they would be praying their Muslim prayers, and I would be praying my Christian prayers. And it's like we knew that. They knew They knew I was praying, and of course I knew they were praying. I've always had great devotion to my guardian angel. Named it a long time ago, Pat, and I called upon my guardian angel very often for protection. It dawned on me, this is extraordinary circumstances. My guardian angel needs help. So I called upon my mother and father. My brother had died in 2020. My sister died, my younger brother and my younger sister died in 2021. So I said, Jim and Pat, Mom and Dad, my guardian angel needs your help. This is extraordinary circumstances. Please, Dad and Jim, keep me on my 2 feet. Don't let me be falling. I don't want any broken bones. Of course, I come home, fall and break my ankle. I wasn't calling upon them as much once I got home. And my mother and sister, I said, I'm really struggling. Please help me with my intestines because I'm having awful trouble with that. And so my mother, my father, my brother, and my sister and my guardian angel were very close to me during those 5 months. I knew they were there with me, and I was depending on them. In fact, one of the things that they did get for me to try to help not be as uncomfortable as I might have been, they got a battery-run fan. But sometimes the fan wouldn't work or the battery was low, and especially in that mud room, there was very little air was able to get in. And I would lay on that sofa and say, okay, Mom and Pat, Dad and Jim, my guardian angel, please relax my body. And my angel, guardian angel, I don't know if you have wings or not, but please move those wings over me so that I could feel a little bit of God's air. And I did. I can tell you, when I would do that, I would lay down, I'd ask them to help me relax, and I need a little of God's air. Move those wings over me so that I can feel God's air, because I couldn't get any of the other air. You see how close they were to me, and I depended on them. I depended on them. Of course, I got lonesome. I felt very sick often. I know I had malaria. And the fear that I would have would be, what are they going to do with me? You know, how long will I have to be there? Will I be able to, because I was getting weaker as the weeks were going by. Sometimes I felt abandoned. You know, it's like, God, where are you? And of course I would pray with Jesus at the agony in the garden, you know, as he prayed, feeling abandoned. And when I would feel so abandoned, God gave me this message. Suellen, I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have called you, and you are mine. You know, that verse that we sing so often. Well, that became God's message to me. You're feeling abandoned, you're feeling lonesome. I have called you with an everlasting, I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have called you, you are mine. What a wonderful, wonderful verse for me to sing over and over and over again. Then, you know, God gives us consolations in many strange ways if we have the eyes and the heart and the ears to see and hear and experience. I'm now in this rainy season abode, my mud room. And at night, if there was nobody else around except the assigned guards, I could sit in a chair right outside my room, the door there. It was wonderful because I could get a little fresh air, because in that room, there was no air coming in except what the fan would give. So I'd sit out in the chair right outside my room, and a little cat started coming every night, a little black and white cat. And of course, it was looking for food. And the guards, they would tease it, you know, we're going to kill you, et cetera, et cetera. But after the second or third night, it came close enough to me that I could pet it. And then maybe after the second night, I picked it up and put it on my lap and started petting it. It never left me. It stayed with me day and night after that. And for me, that was God's consolation to me. God sent that little cat as a reminder, Suellen, I am with you. I am here. This little cat is going to be your companion. That little cat, I called it Moose. Moose stayed by my side. Before that, it would leave during the day. We didn't know where it went. It would just come at night looking for food. But once I was able to pet it, once after that, it never left. It would nestle next to me on my lap. When I'd lay down, it would nestle between my legs. Of course, I helped feed it. We would talk to each other, mew, 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 you know. I had a companion there. God said, you feel lonesome? I'm going to send a little animal, a little cat, to be a companion for you. You're not alone. I am with you. God's presence, God's presence. Actually, after a while, I was able to appreciate the solitude and the silence. It dawned on me after I got home. In fact, I wrote to a priest friend of mine to say, you know, I felt closer to God during those 5 months than I do now at home, because there's so many distractions. Not bad, all good things, but there it was just God and me. God and me. So we all need, that was a bit much silence and solitude, but we all need to take times of solitude and silence in order to hear what God is saying to us. What are the messages that God has given to us? What are the signs, the consolations that God gives? We need to take time to reflect on our life and our life experiences. Another message, as I said, when I get to the scripture passage in the office or Mass, another time, God's message to me was very clearly, and it came often, Suellen, you need to be peacefully patient. Peacefully patient. I am with you, but I want to go home now. I am with you. Be peacefully patient. And the next message, when I was really feeling sorry for myself, God said, Suellen, and in this tone, Suellen, it's not all about you. I'm saying, but God, I'm the one who's lonesome. I'm the one who doesn't feel good. I'm the one who wants to go home. It's not all about you, Suellen. Stop turning in and thinking about yourself. I'm working on the lives of many people because of this. I'm working in you, but I'm also working in these Muslim men who are learning, well, a Christian woman is not so bad after all. You know, we can become friends. Telling Suellen, these Muslim men are not so bad after all. We can become friends. We're all God's children. Powerful message. People united in prayer. God was working in, I can't say how many people because of what had happened to me. I mean, just here in the Archdiocese, how many people joined together in prayer. The masses that were offered, and I was remembered thousands of masses during that time. My family, because it put them more in touch with each other, they got even closer. My community got even closer, united in prayer for me. In fact, our pastor said to me, Suellen, you did more for your community during those 5 months than you did in all your years in leadership. And so it's like, yes, good things were happening, and I had to be peacefully patient. I needed to remember it's not all about me. It's not all about me. I am working. Oh, and the medical center continues. God worked in those nurses and doctors and staff that they were able to continue the mission there. So as I said, we became friends. They were not just guards anymore. They were guardians. They were guardians to me. They made sure I had some water to drink, some, I called them fruit drinks. They weren't real fruit, but it was like a mango drink or orange drink. They made sure I had that. They made sure I had rice, spaghetti, sardines, but anyway, so they were very attentive to that. One time, and early on I had made up my mind, I'm not going to cry. I'm lonesome and I don't feel good, but I am not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. Well, one time when Mr. Newfu came, the man who washed my feet, came to visit, I was really down. I said, Mr. Newfu, I am lonesome. I don't feel good. My body is breaking up. It's just not working right anymore. And I started crying. After he left, the translator, Mr. Saeed, he came to me and said, he called me Mama. I never did change. He came on later after I taught them to teach me, call me sister. He came on later and he started calling me Mama. I took that as a name of respect, He said, Mama, Mr. Newfu does not like to see you cry. It upsets him. Kind of gives you a sense of that man's heart, and of the relationship that had developed between us. One day, Mr. Newfu, talking about names, he came and said, I'm going to give you a Muslim name. Oh, I said, okay. He said, if anybody asks you what your name is, you tell them Fatima. Oh, okay. And I knew that was a Muslim name because we had a nurse named Fatima. So I didn't think anything special about it. When I got home, one of the women that comes to daily mass with us in our parish, she gave me an article written by Fulton J. Sheen, and it was about the Muslims having devotion to the Blessed Mother. And I'm reading it, and it says, for the Muslims, the Blessed Mother is the most blessed among women, and Muhammad's daughter is the next most blessed among women, and her name is Fatima. That's the name he gave me, a name of reverence and respect to those Muslim men. I didn't realize that until I got home, but then wow, God, another sign that you were there working in me, but also in these men. A few times, they wanted me to do something or use something that I didn't want. And I would say, I cannot and I will not do that. One, they brought me this big mattress. They didn't think the sofa was good because it had broken up, etc. They brought me this big mattress to sleep on, thick, and the covering was a Superman covering. Well, I tried it for a few nights, but you'd sink in it, and to get out, I had to roll over, pull on, get on my knees, pull on something to get up. It was very, very difficult. And so after 2 nights or 3 nights, I said, I cannot and I will not sleep on that mattress anymore. And we have to fix that sofa because the sofa then was broken and down on the ground almost. And again, I had to get on my knees, pull myself up, and my legs were weaker and weaker and weaker. And I said, I cannot and I will not sleep on that sofa. We got to put the back underneath it, put some branches on there to lift that sofa up so that I can sleep on it and stand without having to get on my knees. It was taken care of. We did it. We agreed, And another time, a funny thing, was when we moved to the rainy season house, mud room, for shower and toilet, they wanted me to use a facility, not really a facility, again, another mud area for that at a distance from where my room was. So I checked it out when we first moved, and I came back and I said, I cannot and I will not use that. There's nothing for me to hold on to. I said, we can figure out something. It's a mud floor in here. I can shower in here. You get me a bucket. That'll be for my toilet. And we were going back and forth, Mr. Saeed and myself, because he's the one who spoke English. The younger guards heard this vehement conversation going on, so they came. They wanted to hear what was going on. And finally, I said, well, look, in the morning, I can go empty my bucket over there, but I can't use it for myself, but I'll empty my bucket. Saeed said, okay. Everybody started clapping. It's like we had come to an agreement. So again, just a little sign of the relationship that developed between us. And every now and then I think, would I have ever thought that I would have these Muslim men as friends? But I have to say, I pray for them by name, those who are with me the most, every day, as I pray for all of those who prayed for me, as I pray for all of those who searched for me, as I pray for all the people who have been taking care of me since I'm home, of course, my community, my family, my friends. It's just an awesome, awesome experience. As we were getting, it was time for me, I found out it was time for me, they were going to set me free. It was on August 26th that Mr. Nufu came to tell me that tomorrow, August 27th, you're going to begin your journey to home. Well, now I'm thinking to Yaugo, where I was taken from. So the next day, I'm all ready to go right away. And I said, Mr. Saeed, are we leaving? Or did I just make this up? Was it a dream? He said, no, Mama, we're going. But we have to wait for other people to come. So finally, a few other people arrived, and Mr. Nufu arrived, and I'm sitting with him before leaving. And I said, Mr. Nufu, one more time. Why was I taken captive? It doesn't make any sense. My grandnephew, he heard a bit of the story. He said, Aunt Sue, they were so kind to you. Why did they keep you captive? It doesn't. I said, no, Zach, it doesn't make sense. But God was working in and through that in me, in these Muslim men, and in people around the world who were praying for me. So it's not my story, it's God's story. And now you're part of that story too. So finally I said, Mr. Newt, why? One more chance, I'm going to ask, why was I taken? He said to me, to make you strong. I'm thinking, that's not Mr. Nufu talking. That's God speaking through that man with the message. This is making you strong. It's increasing your faith. It's increased your devotion to the Blessed Mother. It's increased your devotion to your guardian angel and the spirits of your mother, father, brother, and sister, etc., etc. Yes, it is to make you strong. And then he asked me, he said, Sister, what will you say about us when you get home? I said, Mr. Nufu, I have nothing but good that I can say about you. You took care of me as best you could. You made a very difficult situation for me less difficult by all the different kindnesses that you did. You respected me, and I respected you and each of the guardians. And so that's what I will say, and I take every opportunity to say that. Right now in our world, we can become very down on different groups, right? But we have to remember, all are not doing bad things. Even those that are doing bad things are still God's children. And so we need to pray for them for a conversion of heart. But this was a total experience for me of not judging a group of people because of their religion, their color, their whatever. Never judging. Give them respect, and they will give you respect. So that was a powerful, powerful moment for me. Another message that God gave me was about trusting God's divine providence. God said to me, Suellen, you've always trusted in God's providence. You look in your life, look, God, you closed the school. As a freshman, they closed my school, and that's how I wound up at Holy Angels. And as I say, I've been messed up with these Marianites ever since. That put me there. It was God's providence that closed that school and got me where I was supposed to be for the rest of my life. And Pauline and I would often, Sister Pauline, would often look at what's happening in Yaugo, and we say, God will provide. We'll get what we need when we need it. one time we were filling out a form for the government. They wanted to know what were some of our needs and how did we plan to fund those needs. And so we wrote the need, and how were we going to fund it? Divine providence. Another need, divine providence. We don't know what they actually did with that, but they never came back at us. But that's the only way we knew we were going to fund whatever it was that we needed. But then God said to me, Suellen, yes, you usually trust in my providence. Looking in the past, you could see how I did something for you or made the way for you. But I want you to trust my divine providential care now. At this moment, I am with you. I am caring for you. Be peacefully patient. It's not all about you. I love you with an everlasting love. I have called you. You are mine. Trust my providence now. Powerful for me. Powerful for me. Yes, God is making me strong from all of this. And so this is a part of my story, I guess you can say, that my experience that has molded me. But all of you have experiences in your lives. Not easy. Maybe some were easy, some were happy, but you probably had many difficult situations. I think of going through all what that happened during COVID alone. You know, that is, and many losses. Many of you have had losses in your lives, or you're concerned about your children or other family members, or it goes on and on. So you need to take time to reflect, to pay attention to listen. What is God saying to you through all of these experiences? Because God is shaping you also as you live your life. We can learn so much from our reflection on our lives' experiences. So who are the Mr. Nufus in your life that God's speaking to you through? Could be a friend, could be a word said by the priest in a homily. It could be a card that you receive. Who is the Mr. Nufus in your life speaking a word that really didn't come from them, but was God's message that you needed? What little consolations has God given you? What little cat is in your life as a little consolation? Maybe it's a beautiful sunrise or sunset or a beautiful flower or a telephone call that comes from someone, and you realize, I needed that. God sent that to me. It was something that I needed at this moment. So, as you know, I've learned so much because of these 5 months. I've learned to be grateful for little things, to notice. One time, I had been on a motorcycle for all day, well, actually 3 days. It's during the process of being brought to freedom. And we stopped. It was at the end of the journey, obviously. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't know if I can go. I'm exhausted. I just can't go. And I looked. There was a truck not too far away. And I said, you know, God, I don't know who I'm with. I don't know where I'm going. But it looks like I'll be in a truck rather than on a motorcycle. Thank you. So look for those providential moments in your life, what God places right there before you, and be grateful for them. And accept, there's a level of trust includes a level of acceptance of what your life experiences are. For the most part, you can't change many things. Yes, there are things that you can change, and as we know, you change what you can, but there are things that you can't change. It's a level of acceptance, trusting that God is with you. And I pray that you will grow in your trust in divine providence. You will become more aware of God's presence in your life through your life experiences. that you will be peacefully patient, that you will realize how much God loves you, and that it's not all about you. And during this Advent season, I suggest that one of the prayers that became very important to me during this time was the Angelus. I prayed the Angelus at least 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. And as I was praying it, all of a sudden it dawned on me. From the beginning, I kept saying, this is a mystery. I don't know what this is all about. And it dawned on me. The angel of the Lord declared unto Mary. Mary was open to this mystery. She didn't understand what the angel was asking or what God was asking of her, but she was open to the mystery. Then, behold, the handmaid of the Lord, be it done unto me according to your word. She cooperated with the mystery. She didn't fight it. She cooperated with it. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. She lived the mystery with Jesus to the cross, to the resurrection. So that became a very special prayer for me also. And I was thinking during Advent, it's a perfect time for you to use that Angelus and beg Mary, as I did, Mary, help me to be open to this mystery. Help me to cooperate with this mystery that I'm living. I don't understand why. And help me to live it with Jesus. So I offer that to you for your Advent season. As many of you have already said to me, it's a miracle. You are a miracle. I said, no, I'm not a miracle. We're a miracle. You are part of that miracle because of your prayer. The power of a positive attitude comes from God. The power of a positive attitude comes from God. And the best way to tap into it is through prayer. So ask God also to give you that positive attitude to realize God's presence in your life experiences, that God is forming you, shaping you through your life experiences. I am so, so grateful. As I said, during those months, I had such a list of people that I was praying for, intentions that I was praying for. And now it goes on. My community, I cannot thank my community enough for all that they went through because of what I was going through. In many ways, they suffered more because I knew I wasn't being abused. They did not know I was being abused. My family and friends did not know that. I knew it, so I could be a little bit more peaceful in that sense. But for them, it was such an agony, such a worry. As I said, my family and friends, the thousands who prayed for me, the FBI, who was so good to my community, to my family, and to me once I came home, they have been a gift, a real blessing. The embassies, a number of different United States embassies worked together in the process of finding me, getting me. I still don't know why I was released and how that came about. Again, it's still part of the mystery, and I just have to say thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you for whoever was a part of that. The Air Force medical team, that's the first group that really took care of me medically when I was taken from Burkina Faso and given over to people who were to the United States Embassy, and then to the U.S. Air Force Base in Niamey, Niger, which is our bordering country. They were wonderful, wonderful. And then since I'm home, the doctors, the nurses, the CNAs, the technicians, the home health personnel, the rehab personnel, on and on. I have been so blessed. It's like, God, how can I say thank you? What? All I can do is keep saying thank you, thank you, thank you, And I know God takes that and understands it. I read a quote in one of those little devotionals, The Living Faith. It was written by Kristen Armstrong. I do not remember what the scripture was. I do not remember what the first few paragraphs were. But the last paragraph, when I read it, it's like, wow. she put words to my experience. And my prayer is that these words will resound in your heart to your life experiences also. This is what she said. When you walk through a season that buckles your knees, you learn that you are not walking at all. You are being carried across the chasm of before and after. You're being carried across the chasm of that event that buckled your knees, from before and after. Prayer carried me across. Your prayer is part of what carried me across. My prayer, my faith, my hope and love, your prayer, your faith, your hope and love was carrying me across this chasm of these 5 months. And what awaits you on the other side, and I have to say this is true, is a new level of faith, a new level of faith, a new closeness with God, a new closeness with God, and an experience with the divine that changes you forever. An experience with the divine that changes you forever. I am changed forever. May you be changed forever as you reflect on and meditate on and see God working in your life through the difficult moments, through the easy moments, the good moments. God is there through all of them. So my prayer is that your faith will deepen, you'll get closer to God, and you'll experience the divine in such a way that you'll be changed forever. God bless you. Thank you.